Did the Beatles cover up the death of Paul McCartney in 1966?
I'm not Paul. You don't want a fake. For years, I've been able to fool people.
The Paul is dead rumor, today on another vinyl show. Ike Frazier Industries presents another vinyl show with Ike Frazier. Hey everybody, I hope everybody's doing all right today, but you know what? Today is October 12th, and it's kind of the spawning of the Paul is dead rumor, which is kind of part of the whole Abbey Road story, right? So since we got the green vinyl Abbey Road this week coming, I thought I'd share a little bit of information though with you from the Apple Peels paperwork right there. And this paperwork is dated October 16th, 1969, and it's from the distributors of Apple, which of course here in America would be Capitol, but the Something single at this point is at number 11 in Billboard. Come Together is number 13 in Billboard. Something's number 11 in Cashbox. Come Together is number 30 in Cashbox. Abbey Road's number 4 in Billboard. Cashbox has Abbey Road at number 1. The White Album is at number 96 in Billboard and at 129 in Cashbox. Even crazier though is that both Abbey Road and the single for Something, they're both well over 1 million in sales. Something's at 1.2 million and Abbey Road's at 1.8 million. And this is only 2 weeks after release. But still coming up in this whole period is where people start putting it all together in college newspapers and radio stations, and it just starts burning like a bonfire and then becomes the Paul is dead rumor. So we're going to tackle that story today because it's kind of an Abbey Road story, and today is the anniversary of the first ever radio broadcast about such a topic. So it'll be pretty exciting, pretty fun. Whether or not you believe in Paul or Fall, the fake Paul, don't get upset at me either way. I love Paul McCartney. I still think it's him. I've seen him a number of times. But if it is a fake Paul McCartney, well, he's really made some great music for us, hasn't he? But until next time, my friends, we'll see you soon. And it's another vinyl show with the old pal Ike Frazier. Enjoy the video. The greatest hoax or the biggest conspiracy ever? In 1969, the Beatles were getting ready to release Abbey Road, and as people were reviewing the albums at Drake University, September 17th, 1969, Tim Harper wrote an article about Paul McCartney being dead. And Tim Harper, seen here, was the head editor of the sports department at that paper. Now, that story got picked up on October 12th. Tom Zarsky called from Eastern Michigan University, and he called up Russ Gibb at WKNR in Detroit, and he told him to play songs from the White Album backwards. John Lennon calls October 26, 1969, and he gets a hold of Russ Gibb at WKNR in Detroit. And John Lennon is a little bit furious with him because the rumor is totally false, and this is what he says about his outfit. Even Alan Klein gets in the act, and he's not the biggest fan of Paul McCartney, but he still says Paul is not dead. But still, the rumors get bigger and bigger. They keep growing, they keep growing, they keep growing. Now, here is the rumor and the clues. And when the Beatles finished touring in August of '66 and John gets back from doing all of his stuff in Spain to make How I Won the War, the Beatles will reconvene in late 1966 to do some recording.
They're going to go their own ways in 1967. They could be, on our own or together. We're always involved with each other.
They get in an
Whatever we do.
argument that night, and Paul McCartney is mad, and he gets in his car and he races away. Oh my gosh, there's a terrible accident, and Paul McCartney is killed in the car accident. And the police come, and the ambulances come, and before the news is announced to anyone, the British counterintelligence agency, MI5, is worried about what this is going to do, not only to the British economy, but to the British teens and teens all around the world. So the MI5 quickly get a hold of Brian Epstein, and Brian Epstein is told to go see the Beatles, and he sees the remaining 3 Beatles, and he tells them that Paul is dead, and that the MI5 has a plan to take care of this very large problem. They take a Paul McCartney lookalike, William S. Campbell, and they take him and they start giving him little bits of plastic surgery here and there to make him look more like the real Paul McCartney and more like the real Paul McCartney. And you see, that chin isn't right, is it? No, I don't think so.
Paul, I'm not Paul. You don't want a fake.
And so you see the difference in the faces there. So the remaining 3 Beatles now, all of the Beatles grow mustaches. So now all 4 of them, including the Fall, which is fake Paul, they all go to recording again. And they work on Strawberry Fields, and Strawberry Fields has the first clue. I buried Paul at the very end. Then Sgt. Pepper comes out, and Sgt. Pepper has all of the little clues all over it, and it is a funeral for Paul McCartney, basically. So you see here that all the Beatles are watching the burial, even the real Beatles are watching from the side, and that says, when held to a mirror, 11/9 he died, and that's the date of the car accident. There's a bloody glove right there next to the Rolling Stone doll. And the Rolling Stone, Paul in the letters there in the flower, that spells the base right there. The open palm blessing over Paul's head there. It's another sign. Paul's back is turned to you on the back cover of Sgt. Pepper. Another sign. George points to this line of lyrics, and if you read it straight across from his thumb, it says Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, next song, and life flows on within you and without you, next song, and you're on your own, you're in the street. Another reference to the car accident that took place on November 9th. Number 9, as you will see. And the OPD. And some people believe OPD stands for officially pronounced deceased or officially pronounced dead. Then on Magical Mystery Tour, there are even more clues because of the little booklet. And we see the open palm blessing over Paul yet again. And here we see the Beatles dancing, and your mother should know. If you look closely, you'll see Paul has a black rose on. And that's not good because the rest of the Beatles have a red rose. And Paul's seen here in another scene from Magical Mystery Tour, and his desk says, I was. And then the drum head on Ringo's drum during I Am the Walrus, that says Love the 3 Beatles on it. Now that's pretty scary right there. And there's bloody shoes next to him. Even the cartoon cover has the open palm blessing above Paul McCartney. Lady Madonna has the lyrics that Wednesday morning's papers didn't come. That's because the MI5 stopped the papers from saying Paul McCartney died. Revolution number 9 backwards. Turn me on, dead man. And what about that little snippet there? Paul is dead man. Miss him, miss him. Scary. Glass Onion has lots of lyrics that could relate to the rumor, and then Abbey Road itself is the funeral procession. They're finally telling the world it's over, and John is the priest dressed in white, and Ringo is the undertaker dressed in black. Paul, our fallen hero, George, the gravedigger dressed in denim. But look behind George, the license plate of that car, LMW, 28 if. But the rumors just keep going, the rumors keep going. But what is the truth? Well, the truth of it is, we see Paul McCartney right here when some people came to his farm in '69, and he says, you better get off of my property. He's not too happy about being spied on by the press back then. But Life magazine comes, he gets in an argument with them, then he gets the pictures back, gives them an article. Here's what Tim Harper says, a lot of us, because of Vietnam and the so-called establishment, were ready, willing, and able to believe just about any sort of conspiracy, so the world was ripe for it. And what about Strawberry Fields? Well, it actually says cranberry sauce on the end. But what about all those clues on Sgt. Pepper? Well, all those clues on Sgt. Pepper, most of them are just purely accidental or made up. The badge that says Paul's dead on it is actually OPP, Ontario Provincial Police. Nothing to do with being dead. What about that car accident? Well, the car accident related to it is the death of one of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones' friend, Tara Brown, the Guinness heir. And unfortunately, he died in that car accident, but here we see him with his pal Brian Jones right there, and he was also friends with Paul. But John used lots of things in his common everyday life to write songs. The poster that he loved so much that he bought, he wrote a song about Mr. Kite from the poster itself, as we know during this period. He also used the newspaper, and one of the articles he read was about one of the people he knew dying, Tara Brown, and so he put that in there. Conclusion? Paul is alive. He's still with us. He's out there rocking right now on tour. There's just no stopping that guy, is there? Look out, there he goes. So, God bless you, Paul McCartney. We'll see you soon next time.